Welcome to the Brass and Woodwind Shop. In a previous video I got the valves working on this trumpet, but then I went to put the valves into the casings, and the top valve cap on the second and third valves would not screw on. The second valve was not that bad, so I fixed that one very easily. However, the third valve cap will not go onto there at all, so that is going to take some more work. The top of the casing where the threading is has been expanded, and it has been expanded a lot. In the last video, you may remember that someone tried to remove the stuck valves by pounding them out through the bottom with a tool. And they got the valves out, but probably what happened is the bottom was expanded, and to try to shrink that down, I am guessing what probably happened is someone may have put that in there and tried to roll it around like that to shrink the bottom of the valve down. Instead, what happened is the threads on the casing expanded greatly. Now this valve cap will not go onto there because the threadings were expanded so much. There are some ways to fix this. The one that I try the most is I take the upper valve cap and then I screw it on a little bit as far as it will go until it gets stuck. And then I take the mallet and then I tap on the upper valve cap like that. I usually tap harder, but since I don't want to damage things, I'm going to tap lightly. And then you screw it in as far as it will go. You tap it all the way around like that, and then you screw it on a little bit farther, and you keep doing that until it works its way down to the bottom. This is part of a drumstick that I ground down, and you can use that and tap on the drumstick like that too. Another way of repairing this is to make a tool like this. This tool is a wire cutter that broke, so what I did is I soldered a bottom valve cap on there, and this is for a Yamaha trumpet, and I silver soldered it because soft solder would not hold. And then I took my jeweler's saw and I cut this so it has 2/2 of the valve cap on it. What you do is you squeeze this onto the bottom of the valve cap and you turn it around as you go in a motion like that, and that helps to close this around it. However, this is probably bent out enough that something like this would not work too well. But if I wanted to do that, I would have to take a Bach valve cap that fits onto this and then solder that onto a pliers and cut it and do the same thing. And then I would have one pliers for a Yamaha trumpet and one pliers for a Bach Stradivarius trumpet. If you want to watch a video where I do this repair, look in the description below for a link to that video. Another way of repairing this is to take a dent ball that would fit into there and then tap it in again with the rawhide mallet in a drumstick. The problem with that is it's not just expanded right at the top of the threads, but also farther down, all the way down to the bottom of the threads. So all the way through it's expanded. So the dent ball would not work on this. There's also a tapered trumpet dent mandrel that I could use to put in here and then tap it out. The problem with that is there are two different bore sizes in there. I'm going to hold this up to the light for you to see. If you look in there, you can see that there are two different bore sizes. The one at the top of the valve is larger. That's where the spring and the valve guide and everything goes in there to make sure that the valve works like it's supposed to. The one that's farther down is where the valve makes contact with the casing wall. So when I put the tapered mandrel in, it will bottom out inside the casing right where that step is right there, and it will not bottom out on the threading. So what will happen is there will be a gap between the mandrel and the threads on the casing. And if you were to tap on it with the rawhide mallet and the drumstick that way, it would make a big mess out of this. What I need is something cylindrical that's the exact same diameter as the upper part of the casing. So there's one more thing left to try, and that's what I'm going to do on this one. I looked through all of my stuff. I looked through ground casing mandrels. I did not have anything that size, and this is what I did find. This is a tool, or at least part of a tool. I think it's to fit clarinets, to do tenon replacements on them. This part goes into the lathe, and this part is almost the exact right size. It's just a little bit too big to fit in there, but I think I can grind that down a little bit and make it work. This dent ball fits into the casing fairly tightly, and this dent ball is about 713 thousandths of an inch. And then I'm going to measure this one. This is 725 thousandths of an inch. So I need to take it down about 12 thousandths of an inch. And I can probably do that with a file. This will not ruin the tool at all. I put this in the lathe and then I filed it down with a file, and it did not take too long to file that down because I did not need to take that much off. And then I have some emery buffing compound and a buffing wheel, and I smoothed this out so it would not damage the inside of the casing. And now this fits into the top part of the third valve casing, so now I can tap this down without doing any damage. It's just going to push the threading in to the piece of metal, and it's not going to go any farther. It's going to stop there. So it should tap that in right to where it needs to be without going too far. Also, this is tight. It does not wiggle around at all, so it should work very well. I'm going to put the trumpet on the wooden assembly mandrel so that it's held out in the open where I can get to it easier. Now I'm going to tap on the threading on the top of the casing. I'm going to do it with a drumstick, and this is soft enough so that it will not damage the threads at all on there. I need to shrink the threading all the way through, not just at the top. So I'm going to hold it so that it makes contact all the way through. And this may be kind of hard to get at with a mallet. I'm going to see here. And then I have to rotate it around. And I also have to make sure I do it without damaging any of the other parts on the trumpet. I do not want to get dents in the lead pipe or the bell, so I'm being very careful to avoid those. When I get right up to the second casing, there's not really a lot of room to get in there, so I'm going to see how it works with me getting at it where I can get at it. If I need to get in there, I can get in there with a different tool, but I'm going to see if this works first. I turned the trumpet around, and now I'm going to tap the other side. I'm going to take this out and see how the valve cap is doing. If I can get the valve cap on there even just a little bit, I can start tapping on the valve cap. Okay, it did go on there a little bit, but I need to make sure that the valve cap is not cross-threaded. If it's cross-threaded and I start tapping, then it will always be cross-threaded and it's going to mess it up pretty badly. So I need to make sure that it is not cross-threaded. I think it's okay though. This might work. So now I'm going to start tapping it. I'm going to keep tapping it all the way around. And then put it on a little farther. And I'm still being very careful to make sure that it's not cross-threaded. Okay, I think we're good. It is going on, but very slowly. I'm probably going to have to do this for quite a while to get that to go all the way down. I'm not going to make you watch for 10 minutes while I tap this down. So I'm going to turn the camera off, and I will get back to you either when it's finished or when something happens. I was tapping on this, but I got a little nervous about expanding the threads on the valve cap also. So I looked through my valve thread mandrels, and I found this, which does fit the Bach Stradivarius Trumpet. I don't use these very often, but I guess it does work well in a case like this. So what I'm going to do is put that on there. I'm going to use the same technique, but this is a little bit stronger and it will not shrink the tool at all, but the tool will shrink the threading. So I'm going to tap on that. And then I'm going to do the same principle but with this tool, and that should shrink this down without damaging this at all. I'm a little more reluctant to use these because these can do damage a lot faster if you mess it up or if you cross-thread it, but I'm pretty sure it's not cross-threaded, so I think it's going to be okay. I will just be very careful as I use it. And I'm going to continue tapping that until it goes all the way down to the bottom. I just turn it a little bit each time, tap it, and then turn it a little more. What I'm going to do to protect this is put this in here and that will keep things from getting messed up when I tap on this. I can also tap on this harder with this in here because I don't need to worry about the threads getting messed up. So in just a little while this should be down to the bottom and should be done. I was able to thread the tool all the way to the bottom to where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to take this apart and see how the valve cap goes on there. If the valve cap goes on, then the repair is done. If it does not, then I will need to go over it again. The valve cap starts going on, but it does not go on all the way. So I'm going to finish it up by using the valve cap. It is about an hour later and about several thousand taps of the mallet later, but it does work now. It works like it's supposed to. It comes right off and it goes right back on with no problem. It did take a very long time to do that. It turned out that the threading on the tool is a little bit larger than the threading on the upper valve cap. So once I got this one to work, this shrunk it a little bit, and then I needed to shrink it more with the valve cap. And I did that going back and forth between the valve cap and using this tool and also tapping on it with a drumstick and also doing a few other techniques. And those are things I have never done before. This is by far the most expanded threading that I've ever seen on an instrument, so it took a lot of work that usually I don't have to do. Now there's one more repair that I need to do, but that is for a different video. I will just show you what the problem is though. When you push down the valves, sometimes when you let them go back up, they stop halfway and then they start to go back up again. Do you see how that did that? This valve, it went up halfway, stopped a little bit, and then kept going and stopped. And that usually is a very easy repair to do. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe for more band instrument repair videos, and look in the description below for links to related videos.